Screen Blur.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss the good, the bad, and the savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Herlocker.
And today, we're going off to the land to fight the king.
What kind of accent was that?
'Tis whatever you want to make of it.
I don't even know what that sounds like.
Do I need to become darker, more inhumane?
I don't know. I don't know how to do a Viking accent, so I don't.
Make yourself a little more grizzly.
Yeah. Well, you can do like the what is it called? The like throat singing that they do in the movie. That's very much like The Grudge. Where it's like I can't do it, but you could do some of that. It just sounds like you're puking.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the wonderful noise of Viking singing.
It sounds much better than that.
Yes.
We are not professionals in any way, shape, or form.
I could do some actual singing sometime, but I don't know about throat singing like in the movie. Just
We'll leave that to the movie.
Yeah, we'll let them do the throat singing. This week, our movie is The Northman. The Northman was released 2022. That's right, this year, the year that we are discussing the movie, this moment, right now. It's 2022. I know what time it is. Or do I really? It's a question I often ask myself. What time is it?
Isn't that a High School Musical song?
Good Lord.
What time is it?
Takes me back.
I think it is.
On that note.
It's our vacation. What time is it?
Cracking a can as I say that. What time is it?
What are you sipping on, slurping on today?
Keeping it PG as I drink brisk iced tea.
Oh, I am not PG.
You're sipping on something a little more potent over there, aren't you?
Gin with some club soda and some strawberry lime kind of flavor.
Strawberry lime.
I'm not really sure what it was. It was like a mixer thing.
I think the song I was just singing was supposed to be strawberry wine, but...
You do what you want.
Anyways... Before we get into the crazy details of the Northmen, and let me tell you, they're crazy, they're Vikings, and they will hack and slash for the entire 2 hours your eyes are peeled onto that film. We'll get into all that, but first, we're going to talk about our side slurps for the week. That's right, our side slurps. If this is the first time you're listening to our show, our side slurps are the things we've done other than watch the film we'll be talking about. They may include other movies, other TV shows, other crazy antics that just might be, flying to the moon or...
digging a hole to the center of the earth.
Yeah, digging a hole, period. Just digging a hole.
That's what I did this past week. I just was in the backyard with my little shovel.
I just imagine you as a child with one of those little plastic shovels just, look, Mom.
I probably was doing that. I lived in the country, you gotta entertain yourself in any way you could.
When you can't dig an actual hole, you've just got the fake one going.
How do you have a fake hole?
I mean, with a little plastic shovel, some Fisher-Price shovel or something.
I did have a sandbox, so I probably was.
See, you just want to be cool when you're digging holes.
I wish.
Anyways, Laura, what are your side slurps for this past week?
Yeah, quite a few things. I started the TV show Manx on HBO Max. It's a lot of fun. It has the actor who played Nick Miller in New Girl. He's in there, and it is about a woman who wants to start a feminist magazine. In I think it's the 70s or 80s. And the only way she can do that is to get Nick Miller's character to be the publisher, and he makes porno magazines. So,
I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
It's a great show. It's a lot of fun. The first episode had this like montage of penises.
Oh boy!
So it's definitely rated.
Maybe I take back what I just said.
It's rated R. But it's really fun. It's enjoyable. I like it a lot. The other TV show that Adam and I have been watching together is something that I grew up watching. And that is So You Think You Can Dance, which is a reality dance competition TV show. I was a dancer growing up, so this show was like one of my favorite things. I was telling Adam, like, I looked forward to the summers when this show would be on. And you get to watch all the auditions and see like the good people and the bad people, and then all of the focus on the choreographers and the choreography and seeing these beautiful performances. I love the show so much. I'm a little unhappy with how they are like structuring this season, but you still get to see beautiful dances. So I guess I will take what I can get. And yeah, Adam, it's your first time watching this show. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, this is the first time I've really sat down and watched the show itself. I've never really taken the time to watch the show So You Think You Can Dance. I've watched American Idol in the past, but I've never really sat down and taken the time to really invest in either show, American Idol or So You Think You Can Dance. I've seen episodes of American Idol in the past, but never really watched from start to finish American Idol an entire season. Never in the past have I even watched an episode of So You Think You Can Dance. I think that really says something that I've never even seen.
I feel like you enjoy the show,
though. But yeah, I will agree with you. I do enjoy what I've seen so far on this season of So You Think You Can Dance, and Laura and I have gone online and looked back on prior episodes of So You Think You Can Dance.
If anyone else knows, one of the best parts about the older seasons was watching the people who could not dance audition. So I showed Adam some really good auditions from earlier seasons, and really good in the fact that the dancers are really bad.
And they're not doing that this season. They hardly showed much of the audition process this season at all. And perhaps that was just to sort of condense and clean up the audition process for the show. Because if they were to keep all of the audition flutter, so to speak, of the bad auditions and the better auditions in this show, the audition episodes or the audition process would be so much longer just to have viewers see, look at this person's audition that was bad, look at this person's audition.
But that's how it used to be. So it used to be they would audition in multiple cities, and 1 week, one episode would be the auditions for one city. And so you would see good people and bad people. And the auditions lasted like 5 weeks. You know, the show lasted for a while through this summer. And it seems like suddenly now they've tried to condense it so much to end the show. And I mean, it's only been, like 3 episodes, I think. And we're already at the top 12. Like 3 or 4 episodes maybe. But still, that's the one thing I don't like about the structure, as I was saying. I just think it's too condensed.
Yeah, but they also didn't eliminate anyone on this last episode because they were saying, it's episode 300, no one's getting eliminated, so woohoo, whoop-de-doo. And perhaps sometime down the line, too, when they have, a final 4 or a final 6 or something, they might even do it where it's like, now that we're down to the final 3 groups or so to speak, something like that, maybe it'll be like, you guys are so freaking good that we can't just cut you off that quick. So
as long as they do that as opposed to like a double elimination, because that would suck.
Yeah. I mean, I can't predict the future with the show, but it's just a just a thought.
It's a great show, though. So go, even if you don't want to watch the whole episode, just go watch some of the dances. That's what I suggest.
Man, some of the dances on that last episode was pretty.
The last dance
good.
with Keaton, our country boy,
man.
I will not lie, I was tearing up a little bit. Like, I get very emotional watching dancing, I think just because it was my life. And there was just something about that piece that really struck a chord with me. It was beautiful.
I very much enjoyed the Broadway dance, too.
That was a lot of fun.
Because that was just fun to watch. It was funny, and it was also very well timed.
It's entertaining.
Too. Yeah,
which is, I mean, what you want when you're watching something. And I think that's why you appreciate the show too, Adam, because you are an artist, and dancing is just another form of art, so you're seeing, it's amazing to see what people are capable of and what they can create with their bodies in this instance versus, their voice or through painting or whatever other medium that they want to do.
Yeah, it's a great thing to see.
Yeah. So other than that, I also went to something that was really fun this last week, my book club. We are choosing our new book, and we are reading The Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolf. And luckily for us, she is a Chicago native, and she had a book release party this past week. So my whole book club, we went to the book release party. So we got to meet her. We got some autographed books from her, and I'm really looking forward to reading that. But I cannot start that until I finish what I'm currently reading, which is The Marriage Game by Sarah Desai. And it's just a nice little rom-com about an Indian American woman and her trials in life, I'll say. Other than my books, I've been playing just more Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which plays very well into the movie that we watched this week that we'll be reviewing. And also just planning, because Adam and I are going on a little trip this weekend to celebrate. It's Adam's birthday coming up. So just kind of planning some things for us to do on our little road trip.
Taking a little trip in our rocket ship.
We're going on a trip in our magic rocket ship. Anyway, moving on. Adam, what are your side slurps for this past week?
This past week, I have been plotting out some new music to write and record, listening to a lot of new music. Particularly, I've been really into the artist Donny Benet, or the Don as many people call him, which I will definitely recommend his music to our listeners out there. If you like listening to stuff like I do, like Chromeo and Breakbot, his music is, I would say, pretty similar to that kind of stuff.
I can see it.
It's, I think it's very catchy and very just relaxing to listen to. And Donnie, if you're out there listening to our show, please come to Chicago sometime soon, because I would
love
to catch a performance sometime. Very, very great to listen to. And other than that, I've also been playing the video game, the classic video game, if you want to call it classic at this point, but Skyrim, which also relates to our episode this week. More Viking kind of stuff going on.
It is Viking-esque for sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Game, obviously, more so because it literally is.
Yeah.
Vikings, but Skyrim definitely
Close
has
enough
some
with dragons.
Yeah, it has Nordic vibes to it. I feel like I can hear the background music in my head. Yeah, constantly. Or the noises it makes when you like kill someone, and when it's like dunk. I know it doesn't go dunk, but you know the noise I mean. It's just like,
when it goes dunk.
Yeah, and the swishing. I got the like sound effects in my head.
I like the sound effects you make. We need to hire you on.
You say that all the time, and we just need to make it happen, I guess. I am your own personal Foley board. I'll just do all the noises.
When I need to sound design next time, I'll just record you. Dunk.
Just have me do a bunch of random noise.
And so, yeah, I've been playing that, just replaying Skyrim.
It's such a long game.
It is very long.
Has anyone ever finished it?
Oh, yeah.
Like 100%?
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have gone through all
Google.
That. Yeah. But there are just so many little side quests in Skyrim that you can play other than the main storyline. That's the thing. You can just cruise through the main storyline and just do that if you wanted to, but there's so many side quests. But the point of Skyrim
is the side quest, I feel like.
Yeah. Just the open sandbox
I
style.
think that's why I stopped playing, though. It got too stressful. I can't have too much. Like, even Valhalla, Assassin's Creed sometimes has, like, too many side quests. And Skyrim's way worse.
Well, you just, you can't let it overload you. And other than Skyrim, as Laura mentioned, my birthday is coming up. Woo! And it is June 22nd. So by the time you are all listening to this show, it should be the next day.
Yeah, I think so. If we are good and get the episode out on time.
So June 22nd is my birthday. And with that being said, that is what I have been side slurping. And on that note, I say it's time, or if I put my Viking voice on, I say it's time we talk about the Northmen.
That was a good accent. Ethan Hawke pulled it off. He just sounded a little husky.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe just was crazy.
He's always
as I'm getting ahead of
crazy.
things. Let's tell us some of the specs on this movie, Adam, before we get into it.
All right. For those of you who need to know about the Northmen.
It's very piratey or something.
Yeah, that was more of a pirate. less of a Viking, more of a pirate. Anyways.
Oh, shit, that's another show. I did watch Our Flag Means Death. That's another show I watched.
No,
We're past the side slopes. But okay. I'm on tangents today. I'm stopping. Adam, tell me about the Northmen.
So, The Northman, released 2022. The plot of The Northman is that Prince Amleth is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle, who kidnaps the boy's mother. 2 decades later, Amleth is now a Viking who raids Slavic villages. He soon meets a seeress who reminds him of his vow: save his mother, kill his uncle, avenge his father.
Dun, dun, dun. You said it out of order. The mantra, the line that he repeats throughout the movie is like, I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill your fiona.
Well, we can blame Google on that one. That's their problem. But let me get into the technicalities of The Northman. This film was directed by Robert Eggers, written by, and I'll do my best in the pronunciation of this, written by Sion and Robert Eggers. It was based on The Legend of Amleth by Saxo Grammaticus. Wow.
What a name.
Wow.
Essentially an Old Norse story.
Yes.
Yes.
And continuing on from there, this was produced by Mark Huffman, Lars Knudsen, Robert Eggers, Alexander Skarsgård, and Arnon Milchan. And the film stars Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Claes Bang, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, Bjork, Willem Dafoe, and many, many more.
Yes.
So, getting into The Northman, if all of the names I listed don't already sound like Vikings, it's a movie about classic Viking lore. As I had mentioned, it's based on the Legend of Amleth by Saxo Grammaticus. And if any of you have read The Legend of Amleth,
I'd be surprised.
I would also be very surprised. If you haven't read that, then I would just start by saying, watch The Northman.
And actually, so the legend was like an inspiration for Shakespeare's Hamlet. And and when we were watching this, Adam, I said to you, I was like, some of this seems very Shakespearean.
Yeah.
Just obviously set with Viking.
Was this seems very much like Macbeth.
Yeah, I was getting Macbeth vibes. But after I read that it inspired Hamlet, I was like, oh, okay, I also can see Hamlet vibes on it.
I mean, Shakespeare plays, they sort of play into one another.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell Shakespeare writing and other things.
Oedipus, like Oedipal, like references too going on. We'll kind of talk about that later. The idea of like, your father and your mother. And yeah, it was interesting. I mean, as we know, like everything in the world is influenced by other things. So it's interesting to think from our point of view, we feel like Shakespeare is kind of like a starting point. But I mean, Shakespeare got so much of his stuff from earlier things than him even. And, there's like whole conspiracy theories. Like, did Shakespeare even write any of these? And we're not going to get into that. But it's just crazy to think that like the story that this is based on is even older than that. Right. And so all just how things influence each other and how we're seeing those references while we're watching this movie. We're like, oh, I can see how it's similar to this and that and that.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you make a very valid point, and I think that goes to all kinds of artists, musicians, painters, writers. It goes with a lot of the music that I listen to. I can already tell, especially in terms of lyrics and things like that. It's one of those things where I might listen to a piece of music or something like that, and it goes without saying that, you're pulling influence from other musicians by referencing them in your content. There's music that's out there where they might be referencing, Jesus or the Bible or something, but the artist themselves might say, they're atheist or something. But the point being is that, well, you're pulling influence from the Bible, or you're pulling influence or inspiration from, some kind of religion. Even if you don't follow it, it's an art form.
Yeah, very much so. Speaking of art form, I think the fact that this movie was directed by Robert Eggers was so important to this movie. And obviously that you can say that for any movie, right? The director is a big deal. But Robert Eggers, who has done in the past some movies that you and I also very much like, he did The Witch and he also did The Lighthouse, both A24 films. And you can just tell with those movies too that he's so interested in like historical things, and I feel like he puts a lot of effort into researching. And I definitely think that happened with this movie. Like, obviously, we're not historians on Norse or Viking history, but to me, watching it, like, I felt like it was real. And the fact that they had all of these very intricate like rituals and kind of imagery that you see, it made it feel like it was really accurate. And actually, I was reading that there is a professor who studies like Norse archaeology or something, and he was saying that he does think this movie is one of the most accurate depictions of like Viking culture that he's seen. So I just think that's like hats off to Eggers, that he put like, and the other writer, because obviously the other writer I think is a author of like Norse history. So he was probably who Eggers heavily relied on.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I feel that not only with this film, not only with The Northman, but also with The Witch and with The Lighthouse, I felt that all of Robert Eggers' work, I have been put into the place where I really felt like it was a matter of realism, and I felt that this could be a realistic situation. It never felt like it was a phony, fake place to be in. When I was watching The Witch, it seemed like this could have been classic old-time America or something.
I get it. This is like Puritan America. Yeah.
Exactly. Or when I was watching The Lighthouse, it's like, okay, this is a very
whenever that's
old-timey, off the coast,
New Englandy.
New Englandy America. And now with The Northman, all right, this is the time of the Vikings, and I am really there with the Vikings.
Oh, let me tell you, the Vikings. I told you, Adam, this was the Assassin's Creed movie I've always wanted and feel like we deserve. It was so good. As we've just been saying, it feels so realistic and so true. And I think part of the reason why that is too, like not only just Eggers and the other writer we were talking about, but also kind of the idea for this movie came from Skarsgård himself, Alexander, the lead actor. I was reading that he had been wanting to do a Viking movie for a very long time. It's been like a passion project of his. Obviously, he's a Swedish actor, so it means a lot to him. And he has been like working on a few projects and none of them just really ever like worked out. And he had a meeting with Eggers to talk about, just some project. And he brought up like, I want to do a Viking movie. And then it was from there that everything kind of just fell into place. And luckily, Eggers met the other writer. I can never remember his name, but Sion, however you pronounce that. He met him through Bjork. And so, from there, the two started working together and creating this movie. So I think because you have a director who's so focused and so into the details, and then you also have a lead actor who was also a executive producer, that like this is his passion project. I think that together just made this movie like what it is.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that this movie certainly looks like it could be the live-action version of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla so or good. Skyrim combined into one as a live-action film.
There's even some, to cut you off, but there's even some scenes that look like exactly out of the video game. So when they're attacking like the Slavic village in the beginning, and the Slavic guy throws the spear, and Amleth catches it and throws it right back, like that's one of the things you can do like in Assassin's Creed. And even just like the longhouses and the architecture, like I was very happy. But I didn't mean to cut you off, Adam, going back to your point that you were trying to make. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the shot that they did when they were fighting the berserkers in the castle, that was basically like a one shot, the entire scene really just looked like it was straight out of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla game, because everything they were doing in that fight scene was essentially, it was really just like you were playing the video game. If you want to really break it down and take a look at the video game and take a look at the Northman, you were essentially a live action player character from the video game. Alexander Skarsgård, or Amleth, I should say, is running up to the castle. He is literally climbing the castle, just like you could do in the game. And then he is going into the castle, and just the body movement of his character is just like the character in the video game, pretty much verbatim. And then everything from there, as he's moving around, it just looks just like the video game. And I'm not saying that the Northman is ripping off Assassin's Creed.
Oh, no, I think
it's
that
actually the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, way to go. Well, way to go to both of them. Way to go to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and way to go to the Northman for making it look like
your
it
research.
should.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Can we talk about that scene also? So this scene happens kind of early in the movie, right? So the movie starts with young Amleth, and we see, his father is murdered, and we see his mother taken away. And then it's years later, and we see the older Amleth, who, as you said, is living as a Viking and, just attacking these Slavic villages. That scene, I think I was reading, it's like 4 minutes, a 4-minute one-take scene. And Skarsgård said in an interview that it was his favorite scene to film. And they had rehearsed it for like months before they did it. And one of the things that Eggers really did in this movie is he wouldn't do a lot of takes of one scene from like multiple camera angles. He would really only do kind of like one thing of a scene and just do that scene like over and over and over again. Like I think they were saying that this fight scene took like 25 takes or something, which then kind of played a role in the editing process later on, which we can talk about. But it was such a good job for that one take. It was a really good scene.
Yeah, and I guess I saw in a video that the one shot fight scene that they did where Amleth is running up to the castle and he's climbing the wall and he's taking everyone out, that whole scene that they did, he had mentioned in the video that I saw that they did that so many times, and when he thought that they were finally done and he went back to his car and he was about ready to conk out after doing that for like an entire night, they actually came to his car and knocked on the window and told him, hey, apparently water fell on the rain deflector on the camera, or had fell on the lens because the rain deflector wasn't working like it was supposed to after they had already done numerous takes, and they had to do another take. So they pulled him out and had to get all the other people that were running
everyone
with him.
Back on set.
So get everyone back on set, get back into your clothes and everything, and do another take. And so they had to do another take when the sun was rising at that point. And I believe that's one of the takes that they use in the film, because the other takes that they had done, which were pretty much when it was dark, where they couldn't keep those takes because they had gotten rain on the lens.
Wow. I can't even imagine how grueling that had to have been. Because it's an intense scene, like, on your body having to do all that. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
It was a great scene, though. I think that was one of the better ones in the movie. One of the best ones. And it's at that point that we meet the leading lady of this film, Mrs. Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Olga. And she is like a Slavic woman who kind of is like a witch, I would say, right? Or she seems very, maybe not witchy, but very spiritual, and that she's very in tune with nature. And I would say a witch, though. It seems like at times she's kind of doing some ritual-y things.
That's like combining movies now. She's a witch in this movie, and she's a witch in Witch.
There we go. There we go. Oh, this time is also when we see Bjork. So Bjork actually has a cameo in this film as the seeress, and she's
the witch.
She so good. Like that scene, I was like, oh, and now that I know it's Bjork, I'm like,
makes it even better.
It makes it even better. But she kind of tells Amleth his fate, right? That he's to find this sword and he will kill his uncle who had killed his father.
That sword is badass.
In a lake of fire. And, she says, like, you will have a maiden king. Your daughter will be a maiden king. Like, she lays out his fate for him. And this, I think, is where the movie really starts. Like, now that he knows his fate, he's like, all right, it's time for me to remember who I am. Remember what I promised. And that is that I will avenge my father, save my mother, and kill Fjolnir, my uncle. So he goes to Iceland.
He's going to make a trip.
In his favorite rocket ship. They're actually in a boat. So he pretends to be a slave and gets on the boat with Olga, and they make their way to Iceland, where he's learned his uncle lives and kind of has his own land, and not really a kingdom. It's very small, but he's kind of
like a little village.
Yeah, he's the leader of this small village in Iceland. And so they head up there.
Well, he doesn't start as a leader, but...
Yeah. Well, he took over Amleth's father's kingdom, but then that was taken over by the king, so he moved to Iceland and is like the king there.
Well, he's just a slave to...
No, Fjolnir, not Amleth.
Oh, I thought you were still talking about
no. Yeah. Amleth shows up as a slave.
Yeah.
And so then he's a slave at his uncle's property, and he just starts playing I wouldn't say little tricks. He's the nightmare. Starts like killing people. So like I was saying, he learns his fate from the seer, and from there he pretends to be a slave because he learns that his uncle is now the ruler of some land in Iceland, which is where the Slavic slaves are going. And so he pretends to be one of those slaves and gets on the boat and heads to Iceland with Olga so that he can find his uncle and kill him and complete his fate. Not complete his fate, I guess. I don't know how you would word it, but follow his fate.
Completing his fate.
Yeah, I don't know.
Completing his dreams.
That. But so he's in Iceland. And he finds his mother, and he thinks he still needs to save her, right? Because he thinks that she's just pretending to be in love with Fjolnir to protect her children. And so a plan gets put into place. Amleth makes a plan.
He plans on destroying the village bit by bit.
Undermining his uncle.
Which I think it's very interesting that he thinks that his mother is just playing along with the whole scheme and just flirting with his uncle this whole time, leading him on. But in the very beginning of this film, it's already brought to the forefront from Willem Dafoe's character that perhaps the king or Amleth's dad, his wife or Amleth's mother, is sleeping with Amleth's uncle.
Yeah, even you and I, when watching it in the beginning, we were like, seems like there's something going on.
Yeah.
Like, she's got the hots for
as soon as Willem Dafoe said that, I immediately already thought, okay, yeah, he's probably right.
So it's really interesting then. Once Amleth gets to Iceland, he sees his mother, as you were just saying. He thinks she's just playing along to love Fjolnir because she has to, right? She's stuck here with him, and they have children together. So to protect her son, she pretends that she is in love with him. So Amleth goes to his mother to kind of try and be like, I'm your son. I'm here to save you. And that's when the ball drops, right? Like, we learn she is not there against her will.
Exactly. And then she starts being a real creep. And
well, that's where the Oedipus stuff comes in I was talking about. Yeah. She admits to Amleth, that she didn't want Amleth. He was caused by rape, essentially. She was taken by Amleth's father, and she never was happy there. She always loved Fjolnir, and she kind of wanted the two of them to die. So it seems like she kind of forced Fjolnir to kill his own brother. Like she kind of talked him into a little bit. Yeah. But then she's like, oh, but Amleth, kissy kissy. We can be together. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. If you kill Fjolnir, then I will be your wife.
Like, no. But luckily Amleth is like, no, lady.
Yeah.
I love my father. You back off.
Yeah. So strange.
And shit really starts to hit the fan after that.
Yeah. Because then Amleth lets Olga know that his mom knows who he is now, and now it really needs to start happening. Now he's really got to take care of business. So
well, he kills Fjolnir's oldest son, his heir. He kills him, and then he just slowly starts to like pick off other men in the village who are, soldiers for him or whatever. Yeah, he like really just starts to. It seems like he goes a little berserk himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he takes out his mom, he takes out the other child, and then...
Oh, yeah.
That little kid was going to dagger him in the back quite a few times.
Well, yeah, he did stab him in the back a few times. And then Amleth was like, get off of me. Killed him.
Said it just like that.
Get off of me. I will say, so one of my complaints about this movie is that, as we've already talked about, some of it was quite predictable. We predicted that his mom was actually not against her will, right? And there are just some other things that seem very predictable. But then also, I think one of my other complaints about this movie is I feel like when it got to the end, the big climax, like his big fight with Fjolnir, his uncle, it seemed very anticlimactic, honestly. It like they resolved it too quickly, and it was just kind of like, boop, we're done.
Yeah.
So, as we're saying, Amleth kills his mother and her youngest son, who I guess is kind of Amleth's like half brother. And so Fjolnir shows up and is like, you and I, we're going to meet at Hell's Gate tonight and fight to the death. And Hell's Gate obviously is a volcano, because where else would you fight other than over top of like flowing lava?
Yeah.
And so the two of them fight, but it just seemed like such a low stakes I mean, it just seemed very anticlimactic, their battle in the volcano. And obviously, like, Amleth kills Fjolnir, but while he's fighting, he also kind of gets like fatal injuries and he dies as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought that was a nice way to end it, because at first you think that Fjolnir is going to kill him. They're duking it out, and Fjolnir hits him in the arm and gives him a really crazy gash on the arm, and you think that Fjolnir's got the upper hand, and then Amleth gets this, steroid-esque boost of,
there's lots
like he's
of,
going Super Saiyan
intense
or something.
Yelling, yeah. He's channeling the wolf.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, just like he did in the beginning of the movie when he was learning from Willem Dafoe with his dad. And so then as he's doing that, then he gets enough energy where he can finally lay down the law on Fjolnir. And in doing so, he cuts off Fjolnir's head, and at the same time, Fjolnir stabs him right in the body, and it's the double blow where Fjolnir's dead, and Amleth has got, the worst stab to take him out. So,
but he still completed his fate.
Yep, he completed everything.
Because we learned too that Olga. So obviously, him and Olga, Anya Taylor-Joy's, Anya or Anna? Anna Taylor-Joy. They were in love and were together quite a few times in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy. And we learn at the end that she is pregnant with Amleth's children, and it's twins. And they have a vision, right? And one of them, their daughter, is going to be like the Maiden King. So he does. He completes his fate. Everything comes to pass as Bjork told.
Always take the wisdom of Bjork.
Bjork knows all. Never go against Bjork.
Yeah, I mean, there's just such craziness in this movie. I
do think kind of that we've talked through the plot. One of the other things I think is important to note about this movie is that this was the first time Eggers kind of made a movie where he had like a large studio overseeing him. So The Witch and The Lighthouse are A24 films. They're kind of more indie. The budgets for those movies were like $4 million and $7 million or something. Whereas this was obviously with a much bigger production company, had a budget of like $70 to $90 million. But with that bigger budget, he had a lot of studio oversight. And so Eggers actually didn't have like final cut of this movie because the studio pushed him a lot to like change things and make things a little more understandable. So I think like I'm in my mind, I'm like, what would that mean then if he had the ability to have like final cut on this movie? Like, I wonder what he would have done differently or what he had to change.
It's an interesting point because I'm sure with his artistic sight, then he might have made it a little different.
I definitely feel like there would have been some differences if he had been able to have his say. He did say this was like the worst editing process he ever had and he never wants to do it again. So maybe he'll go back to like indie A24
Stick to A24
movies instead of these big budget things.
A24 is where it's at.
Yeah.
But this movie did really slam the box offices, and I guess it's really selling Blu-ray copies right now. Isn't that strange?
It's a good movie.
It's really selling on the Blu-ray shelves.
Yeah, that is interesting because I feel like most people don't really buy physical versions of things anymore. So
that's an interesting thought to have, though, because a lot of people think that physical Blu-ray discs aren't something to buy anymore, yet they're still being sold.
Yeah.
They're still on shelves. They're still available to buy, and people still buy them. So it's food for thought. It's just like buying a vinyl record. Not entirely like it, but, you know, people make physical copies of music. People like to buy vinyl. I'm one of them. I like to listen to vinyl records. Love having them. Love putting them on. Love listening to them. There is a difference listening to vinyl records versus listening to digital media. Mm-hmm. And that's why I do it. I listen to the vinyl disc for the appreciation and the value and just the love and admiration of having that vinyl copy. And is it the same as having a Blu-ray copy of a movie? Perhaps. I guess
it's the way you see it.
Yeah, it's the subjective idea, I think, of owning a Blu-ray movie, because I still own Blu-ray movies and I love the Blu-ray movies that I own.
We're old school. We're material people.
We need to go buy VHS movies.
Yeah. No. Fun fact. Ready? Alexander Skarsgård. I've been trying to keep my fangirl in check, but I love that man. So
You get out of here right now. It's all about Stellan Skarsgård.
The whole Skarsgård family I am for. So actually, another fun fact before I say my big one. Listeners, if you don't know, the Skarsgård family are quite prolific in the acting realm, I would say. Stellan, the father, is a very well-known actor. He's in the Thor movies. He's in tons of things.
Girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah. Alexander, who is in this movie. And then there's his brother Gustav, who is in the TV show Vikings. He plays Floki, which is also a great TV show about Vikings. And then we also have another brother named Bill, who plays Pennywise in the It films. I think he's actually plays the creature in the newest season of Stranger Things. And he was in Hemlock Grove, which I loved. But anyway, back to Alex. Alex is the one I love. I was obsessed with True Blood when I was in college. And so my fun fact is, in True Blood, Alexander Skarsgård plays a vampire who was a Viking that turned vampire, and his name was Eric Northman. So it's just fun then that this movie is then called The Northman, and he's playing a Viking once again.
How about that?
Adam doesn't care for that fun fact, but I liked it a lot.
How about that?
I just love Skarsgård. Is there a connection? Skarsgård.
Who knows?
Well, they're both Vikings. I mean, Northman, I think, obviously, is just
I think it's just a
name for Northman.
Could there be the Southmen?
Yes, that is people from Australia.
From Texas?
Well, I guess how south are you going?
Yeehaw.
Anywho's, can we talk about some reviews for this movie?
Absolutely.
Did you look at the Rotten Tomato score?
Is this my homework test?
Well, I'm just asking because that's what I want to ask you about. I was quite surprised by the Rotten Tomato score. So it has an 89% from the critics, which I get, but then only a 64% from audiences. And that surprises me. Like, I feel like this should have a higher audience score.
The audience isn't vibing with this.
I don't get it. I'm like, why is it such a low audience score?
It's a very good question.
I was kind of trying to read through some of the reviews, and mainly what I was getting from it is people were saying that it was too artsy and like a little too confusing, but I don't know. I just, as we're saying, like, it's been a hit and people are buying the Blu-ray. Like, I don't know. There's just something about that doesn't sit right with me, and I feel like the audience score should be higher.
I can kind of agree with that a little bit, though. Like, I kind of have a little bit of a wish that this looked a little more real and a little less, a little less computer graphic imagery-esque. I mean, it's not like CGI all over, but it's like going back to the Berserker battle scene that you and I were talking about earlier, when I was saying that it looked like the video game. It's one of those things where that battle really kind of looked like a video game when you're watching it. It's almost like that fluid movement had the feeling of like they are just bodies moving like player movement.
Like it felt too rehearsed?
Yeah, it really kind of looked like I was watching like a game character moving around, and I almost wished that the graphics or something just looked a little more like a good movie. I would compare this to, I say good movie, but I'm thinking of Zack Snyder's 300. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of the graphics in 300.
Well, that's more CGI than this.
Yes, but it's just that feeling of like that mesh, that kind of like graphical mesh of movement in like the fight scenes and things like that. And it just kind of got that vibe a little bit when I was watching them fight. And I wish it was a little less of that kind of feeling, or just maybe it's just like the graphical like tint or like colorization or something in the editing and things like that.
Mm-hmm. See, so while like my initial, as we were just sitting here, is like, I don't feel like this was CGI at all. Like it felt very real. I did not get that vibe at all. But now that you're kind of talking and I'm thinking back on it, like I can definitely see where it does seem maybe a little too rehearsed and too perfect. Whereas if it had felt a little more chaotic, I think that would have helped it seem less, as you're saying, kind of video gamey / streamliney, kind of that vibe, right? Like maybe they just rehearsed some of these scenes too much, where it was to like this perfection, like muscle memory kind of realm, and it didn't allow them to be more like realistic in it. I can see that for sure now that I'm sitting here thinking on it.
Right. Or it's like, I know that you and I have had our feuds or our digs on, the way that you see the Coen brothers movies versus my views on them. But if you take a look at the visualization of a film by the Coen brothers, or even most recently the last film by Ethan Coen,
with Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah, and like how that movie looks, and then compare that to something like this. I just feel that there's so much more realism with what the Coen brothers will do with their films versus...
We're going to disagree again. But that's okay. I felt like this movie looked really real. I have no complaints about the sets or the costume or anything. Like, I feel like that all looked really real. I think I agree with you, though, in that it seemed too perfect in, like, some of the scenes, rehearsal-wise, but... I definitely feel like the setting and place and all of that felt very real to me.
I'll have to think very deeply about.
I mean, Tragedy of Macbeth is not a good example to bring up. That is obviously a set.
Well, but
that's what they wanted. That's like the vision.
Was the point of that
was
film.
The vision of that one. But even still, I feel like this movie felt very real to me. I mean, that's what we were saying in the beginning. It's very accurate. And it seemed very... very Viking-esque. So that all felt real to me. But I agree. I do think it was maybe a little too rehearsed and a little anticlimactic at the end. those will be my downfalls. Did you see any other reviews, Adam?
Well, it's got a 3 stars from Roger Ebert.
So he liked it. I feel like 3 is, well, it's not
It's
Roger.
not a 4.
He's no longer with us. But I think 3 is a good rating, though, from the Ebert scale of things.
Yeah.
3 and above are good. So I would take that as a positive review for this movie.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Any other fun facts you have, Adam? Oh, did I even tell my one fun fact? When I started talking about the Skarsgårds, and I think I got off track. Did I mention Bill? Bill, his brother, Bill Skarsgård, was supposed to be in this movie, actually. He was supposed to play Fjolnir's oldest son, but because the movie was postponed due to COVID and things like that, he had some scheduling issues and had to back down.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't think I said that earlier. I got distracted by talking about all the Skarsgårds. As my best friend and I used to say, billions of Skarsgårds. Well,
the one fun fact I have was that Robert Eggers convinced Bjork to return to acting after 22 years from ScreenRant.com. Apparently, Bjork was last in the film Dancer in the Dark from directed by Lars von Trier from early 2000s. And now she's back to acting after 22 years.
It's a long time.
Just because from what Laura mentioned earlier, Bjork is apparently, friends with Sion, the co-writer on this. And lo and behold, Sion...
All these Swedish people know each other, man.
Yeah, he's just got close ties with Bjork, so that's all it took.
She was gifted 3 horses after this movie.
Gifted 3 horses?
Yeah, so that's another one of the fun facts. I wasn't going to mention it, but I'll bring up Bjork. So some of the actors in the movie received gifts like after filming was done. So Nicole Kidman got a sword, Bjork got 3 horses, and Alexander Skarsgård got the blood-stained thong that they did the final volcano battle in. He got that thong framed, and that was his gift from this movie.
Oh my gosh. Another interesting fact pulled from ScreenRant.com was that Robert Eggers made The Northman instead of a Nosferatu remake.
Wow.
And he's been trying to get his Nosferatu remake off the ground for years, as it was going to be a follow-up to The Witch.
Oh, interesting. Didn't Brian De Palma do a Nosferatu
apparently
remake?
Harry Styles was attached to star in it.
In the Nosferatu? I'm here for it. Let's hope that still happens.
Well, it was put on hold when Harry Styles pulled out, so.
Well, god damn it. Harry, stop doing your tour and get back in it. Didn't Brian De Palma, though, do a Nosferatu movie? Am I making that up?
Not that I remember.
I swear to God. Someone did. Maybe not Brian De Palma. I'll do some Googling. I'll have it in next episode. Someone did.
But that's what I've got for that.
Oh, Werner Herzog. Why did I confuse him with Brian De Palma? I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Adam, I'm going to switch it up this time, and I'm going to ask you first. Do you give this movie a slurps up or a slurps down?
I didn't even give the gist on what they were.
Listeners know. Do we need to tell them every episode?
If you've never listened to our show, this is the time for our slurps up or our slurps down. Slurps up meaning we recommend this movie, we think you should watch it, and we think you should glue your eyes to your television screen because that's morally safe. And slurps down means that we do not recommend this movie. We think that it's garbage, and we think that you should light your television on fire. Now tell me.
Adam, give me your opinions on this movie. Slurps up, slurps down. How you feeling?
I think that if you know nothing about Viking culture and you enjoy Robert Eggers movies, or if you've just never heard of Robert Eggers before, I say go for it. I say I give this movie a slurps up, and I think that there was just enough in this movie. Overall, altogether, I think the costumes and the scenes and just the look of this film and the acting, there was just so much going on that I was thoroughly entertained watching this movie front to back. And Yeah, I don't know if there's much more for me to say about it other than that I think that this movie is definitely worth taking a watch at and just really taking it all in, because it's just a fun experience with what it is. And also, if you haven't already done it before watching the movie, watch the movie and then play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because you'll understand all the comments we made about how they seem really similar. Laura, would you give this movie a slurps up or a slurps down?
Slurps up for sure. I think this is the most viewer-friendly of Eggers' movies for sure. So if you've never seen one of his films, The Witch and the Lighthouse, I think, are definitely more abstract. So this is more straightforward. And I don't know, I thought this film was great. Like I said, I mean, I love Vikings. I love Skarsgård. It had everything I wanted in a movie. I will say, I think at times it was a bit predictable, and the ending was resolved a little too quickly, a little anticlimactic, but it's a fun movie. It's a good watch. And I think it's historically accurate. It seems to be so. So even just from that sense, just kind of getting to see, you know, a Norse story being told, I have no complaints. I thought this movie was great. As I do have complaints, but I don't have major complaints, I guess. So slurps up for me.
Not enough to not slurp that drink.
That's right.
And with that being said, that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It will help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies that you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages, and trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So, closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Herlocker.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.
Later.